Oh, yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
Is that right? And he said, and some of the things that we would be studying are the mechanical arts and sciences that we lost, and that they will be taught to us by our scientists, by our teachers, coming from our nation. Until now, I want to go back to Surah 97 to indicate one or two more points, and then I will close. There are 5 verses in that verse or chapter, and the final verse says, peace, it is till the rising of the morning. Now I traced that just this morning in my study, another part of it. We have 5 prayers, is that right? Obligatory. The other 2 that make 7 are optional. We can do it if we want to. The tahajjud in the night, and the tajahud, am I saying that right? Tahajjud in the night, and also one called dua, which we can pray about 10:30 or before the noon prayer at 12. We see there that we have 5. And we know that we have 17, which is marked as the completion of the years in this century, marking from 1983. Now if we go to the beginning, which we also discussed, to the 17th surah, it is while Muhammad was on his ascension that the 5 obligatory prayers were made obligatory. Okay? It was during that period when he was given the orders to have them to say their prayers 5 times a day. Okay? And in this Quran, it mentions that the 5th prayer, in that verse, that the 5th prayer is Fajr, the dawn prayer. Look what the verse says. Peace it is till the rising. Why is it peace till the rising of the morning? Okay? And we see a picture of Master Fawad Muhammad with what in his hand? The Quran. And it says that your reading, a long reading should be rendered of the Quran in the morning time. And that would be witnessed by whom? Okay? Yeah. And the sign of the book in his hand is a sign both of the ending up of the old world and its mastery and the coming in of what? A new book, and a new sign that will take off like from the old book and then lead us into the knowledge and understanding of the new. If we take 5 verses and multiply it by 17, we get 85. And if we prefix that by 19 again, we get 1985. The 85th surah of the Holy Quran is called Al-Barush, the stars. And according to our lessons, it says that the scientists saw 144,000, is that right? Who were capable of overcoming the beast and his arguments, right? And were able to be the stars. And they would return to their original land. But the rest, he said he saw as poison and rusted, and that they would go down with the beast. But then there's a challenge. He said, but we think we can beat, is that right? The prophecy. And that we will get all of the 17 again, million. Because a lot of people have asked, why 17? Our consensus is 30 million or 35 million, right? Almost the same as Iran. So why is this? Because all of those numbers are part of the code. And if you remove the number, you won't get the code. You see? You won't be able to break the code. Okay. And then we have, in student enrollment, we're coming to a juncture of contact with our Indian brothers, is that right? And also of our brothers and sisters in Mexico. So part of the code is in there that will link on at a certain time when we understand our assignment. Because our code links up with their code, and I don't have time to go into that right now, but it's very important. And it's all based on the same numbers. Because we have our population, 17 million plus the what? 2 million Indians makes what? 19 million. Okay. Got 19 again. So 1985, according to the Bible, in the history of the Exodus and Moses, he leaves out in the what? The 400th and what? 30th year. And 430 years of our enslavement by our enemy will be completed in the year 1985. Okay. So all of the signs are here for us to study, both below and above. And in order to master it, we must have a knowledge and understanding of our lessons. That's the root, that's the base, and then that will lead us, okay, with confirmation as we study the Quran and also the Bible. I wanted to just say this in closing, that Surah 19 leads into Surah 20. Do you remember the answer that I answered the scholar? That the 19 would seem that, okay, one more number, and you're rounded up to 20 in the 20th century. It is in the 20th Surah entitled Taha, the final call, in which a trumpet is blown, and the gathering together. After what? The Messianic code is tied up with 19 under the sign of the Messiah, his imminent return. So with the preaching of Christ's imminent return and the trumpet blast coming from our brother minister Louis Farrakhan, the final call, is that right? Is going out. The final call to what? See? That's right. The final call to Islam, and it's like saying it's a wrap-up on the old world, and a new thing is about to happen altogether. Therefore, he repeats, that is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, to look at him, is that right? To listen to what he's saying, to obey his instructions, is that right? And then suddenly in the 20th surah, beginning with verse 90, we have that great controversy of the people disobeying Aaron's orders. And they break up into madness, and then suddenly Moses appears. You know? And then he begins to talk to each one of the group. He asks the people, why did they not obey? Then he goes and he asks the Samaris, okay? Then he asks Aaron, and then everything comes to that point, and you hear these words, and we will gather together the guilty blue eyes on that day. And it measures to 10 centuries. And 10 centuries is read as, in a day, 1,000 years. Okay? So here we go back again, the sign of the 1,000 years, and now brought down to a capsule. In other words, you see the readings go back to astronomical proportions, to the very origin of the creation of the heavens and the earth, back to the number 76. Okay? And now, as we're coming close to the time, what's happening? It's a condensation of the time now by the year. It's going down, by the minute, see? By the second. And you won't get that unless we study our lessons. It's in our lessons. And then, in that way, we will be able to go forward into the new world, not confused. Okay? But we will have been elevated. See, with the exaltation of the messenger, that means that his people have to be exalted too. With greater understanding, with greater insight, right? With greater wisdom. Because how in the world can we lead others and we cannot lead ourselves? How can we go forward if we don't understand Allah and his messenger? See? So the examination before Almighty God Allah means, do we know who God is? Do we know who the messenger is? Do we understand each other? Do we see each other as members of the God tribe? So from that point, I'm going to end by just making one more statement. You will notice that I was very, very enthusiastic and very, very happy to be able to present here in Phoenix, Arizona on the messenger's birthday, October the 7th, a premiering of a cultural expression coming out of his words, music, color, and medicine for the healing of the nations. And Allah has blessed us to be able to perform or to do a portion of that lecture in San Diego, California, this past weekend before we went to Los Angeles to hear the minister deliver a electrifying message to Bishop Booken and a number of, I think, Minister Reed and many, many other ministers were on the podium that night in Los Angeles. We had just come in from San Diego. Sister Sherry, Sister Sylvia accompanied me, and we presented a portion of that to the first convention called the Institute of African Mysticism. It was very interesting, because what we saw there were brothers and sisters who have sort of like been in the woodwork maybe, studying for many, many years advanced studies in metaphysics, and having attuned themselves to the channeling of certain gifts, such as mental telepathic thought, the art of healing, and all of this going on, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, this is a very, very important meeting that we have attended, because these are the kinds of gifts that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that will come to us. Is that right? If we keep ourselves pure and clean and take the rust off the locks of our brain, that we will be able to tune in, that we will be able to do many, many wonders that the world has never seen before. And in all that we witnessed, we saw the power of the black man coming into his own. I should say the black man and the black woman. And once they see the messenger as the master, once they see Master Farad Muhammad, we have got some power coming into this nation that will shake the foundations of the world. And we have to be prepared to receive such brothers and sisters whose gifts are sincere and genuine and divine. And with the direction that we have been given from Almighty God Allah, when we also come together as a family, we will make a beautiful nation of the right to embrace brothers and sisters from all around the world. So I feel in my closing that we have now come to a certain point in the juncture of our history in which, if we keep ourselves clean, as we complete our fast of Ramadan, that I want us to be very, very thoughtful and careful of the time and the kinds of people now that we are joining on to. And that we want to be the best. Is that right? We want to show them that the light that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has given out is the brightest light in the heavens and in the earth. And that he will turn us over into a higher wisdom that will outshine anything that has ever been produced since the first God made the sun and produced himself. So let us go forward in the spirit of this Ramadan with more understanding of the time, and that he will open our hearts and minds to greater and greater understanding until we meet again at Savior's Day. And I can't tell you what that's going to be like. But I think that we really have to prepare ourselves, because things are happening very, very fast because of time. The last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan are specially to be observed. And the last 10 nights of Ramadan, which would make the last 10 nights of December for us, the beginning of the first revelation of the Quran began. Some of the scholars and scientists say it was on the 25th night, the 27th night, or the 29th night, but they're not sure. And that is why we have this chapter called the Night of Majesty. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad himself wrote, and I'm sure I can share this with you in confidence, he wrote in a letter to his son Wallace, in the disturbed state and condition of his son's deviation, he mentioned this surah 97, and he said the exact thing that was written in the footnote, that 83 years into a century, marking 17 more years to complete the century, meant the ending up of the old world order and the coming in of a new book, of a new revelation coming from Almighty God Allah. And he said, I wish that I could tell you what that means. But he said, but since you are not of my following, I cannot take you into the circle of that knowledge. So I pray Allah that we will fast, that we will keep our hearts clean, our minds clean, and pray to Allah and ask for his guidance, forgiveness, and make us precious vehicles and vessels to receive guidance, instruction, and life-giving teaching from him that will carry us into the life of the hereafter. Thank you very much for your attention, and I love you all very much. Assalamu alaikum.